Welcome everyone to my latest video. In this we are on Roncesvalles Avenue sketching the maple produce fruit market. So you can see me at the beginning measuring out the drawing on the page. I use my pencil and just sort of pick a basic unit to measure out the drawing and compose it on the page. In this case it was from grade to the underside of the canopy. And I'm just getting my pencil lines down as a skeleton for the drawing. There was a person standing that I liked, and so I wanted to capture them ahead of time because they wouldn't be there when I move on to pen. It's a bit of a balance trying to capture people because they are continually moving, and there's sometimes really interesting clothing or just the way they're standing. I want to capture it, so now I'm sort of going half by memory and half by that pencil sketch that I did, observing the person. And so now I am kind of just loosely going in with the fountain pen that I have. It's got a Fude nib, and so I'm able to get a variety of line weights out of it. Tend to work quite quickly in fine lines. Try not to do anything super heavy until I've added some paint. I like the idea that it's a mix between the painting and the line work, so I don't want to go overboard before I paint, because sometimes you discover things as you're painting. You'll have to excuse my hat going in and out of focus. I still haven't figured out my camera. I think I like the overall zoomed out shots to sort of set the stage and set the scene, but I think I need to resolve the filming of the actual drawings. I'd like it to be a bit crisper than it is. But I'm just experimenting. This is sort of my hobby. So. And it's funny, I generally don't like sketching buildings. I don't find it very fulfilling, but when it's framing a scene, then all of a sudden I become interested in it, and it's building up texture around what I want the focal point of this drawing to be, which is people gathering. And in most of my sketches I find where people are gathering is the most interesting subjects usually. And also most difficult because people move, and I like working on location and not from photographs in good weather. I'm not sure what I'll do for this winter. And so I've added in some detail of the fruit market itself, another person, and just suggesting where the fruit baskets and all of the fruit will be. You can see my artist roll blowing in and out of the shot. I have found it pretty useful to actually tie to my bike, and then I have all of my utensils, yeah, you can see it here, at my disposal. And so this is my Daniel Smith paint set that I'm actually getting close to working through a couple of my most popular colors. I have a little collapsible water container, and I'm just getting the page wet. And I am painting one-handed while I'm drinking my coffee. Caffeine and painting seem to go well together for me. So I'm just trying to get a very light tone down. That'll be the basis of the light, the sunlight on the building. Doing it on an angle to give a bit of energy to it, trying to leave some white showing through so there's a texture to the wash. Dabbing in a bit more saturation. I really like this brush. I find I like how it makes marks, and I'm still wrestling with how to best use it. But I like the fact that it makes nice clean lines when you want it to. You can use it almost as a stamp, or you can use it to get a lot of water on the page. You can even use, you'll see actually with these shadows, you can get little crisp lines. This is kind of that stamping texture, which I then kind of wash away. And now that I am working through a lot of these paints, I'm trying to get into the colors that I haven't used. And that turquoisey, I thought this was a perfect opportunity to try it out. I think my page was a little wet, and maybe my initial mark could have been a bit more exuberant. But in the end, I end up making enough of a mess with the turquoise to make something interesting. It actually started raining on me a little bit when I was out painting. You might have seen a couple drops at the page.
Oh, because you don't get any points or any of that.
And this part of the watercolor is really, I enjoy it every time when the pigment is still wet and you're dabbing in more saturated, drier, with a drier brush, poking in paint. It's really satisfying to me. And so there's some more examples of why I like this brush. You can really get some crisp shadows with it. You can spread it around. Somebody suggested I get a wristband to wipe my brushes on, and I think I should do that. I use an old pair of pants when I go and just end up painting them. And so I'm trying to add a lot of water to the page now to capture this tree, to get the paint to do the interesting things it does when it's really wet and moving around. And this brush I like too. There's something nice about the bristles. This is that squirrel, either real squirrel fur or simulation, I'm not sure. but I really like the way it moves paint around. And it's another one you can use its tip, get really nice details with it, or on its side, or just mop a whole lot of water and pigment onto the page. Now, unfortunately, my head got in the way of me sketching out that tree, but you could see how vibrant it was when I was initially doing the first wash, and how much the saturation goes as the painting dries. And so this is where I got to on location, and I ended up adding some more details. You can see there's a lot more contrast to the people under the canopy. Tried to add some highlights showing through, and then I sort of tried to really neatly detail in the label of the produce market. And this is my liner brush, which works really well for what I'm showing here. What I wanted it for is using it on its side and sort of spreading paint around in a really texture-heavy way, but that didn't quite happen. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed this one.